For centuries, one name terrorized the entire European continent. A name whispered with dread by kings, popes, and captains alike. To the west, they were ruthless pirates, monsters of the deep. But to the east, they were legendary liberators, the supreme rulers of the Mediterranean. But how did four ordinary brothers, sons of a humble potter, rise from absolute obscurity to challenge the greatest empires of the 16th century? This is the untold, brutal epic of the Barbarossa brothers. Our story begins on the quiet island of Lesbos. Here, the brothers, Ishak, Oruç, Khair, and Ilyas, grew up working in their father's pottery shop. But the clay and the wheel couldn't hold their ambition. The endless horizon of the Mediterranean was calling. They became merchant sailors, navigating the dangerous trade routes. For years, life was peaceful and business thrived. Until one fateful day, the dark reality of the medieval seas shattered their world forever. Without warning, their merchant ship was ambushed by the Knights of St. John, a fierce Christian military order. The battle was short, bloody, and merciless. In the chaos, the youngest brother, Ilyas, was cut down and killed. Oruç, fighting fiercely, was captured, chained, and dragged away into the dark hulls of a crusader galley. For nearly 3 years, Oruç lived as a galley slave, rowing under the whipping sun, fueled only by bread, water, and an unquenchable thirst for vengeance. But Oruç wasn't born to die in chains. On a stormy night, while the guards slept, he broke his irons, dove into the freezing Black Sea, and swam for his freedom. Oruç survived, but the humble merchant sailor was dead. In his place, a ruthless warrior was born, ready to paint the Mediterranean red. After his miraculous escape, Oruç reunited with his brother Khair, but they could no longer return to their old lives. The Mediterranean was now a battlefield, and they needed a powerful base. In the early 1500s, the brothers sailed south to Tunisia. They struck a strategic alliance with the Sultan of Tunis, securing the port of La Goulette as their operational stronghold. In exchange, the Sultan would receive a share of their spoils. With a growing fleet of fast, heavily armed ships, the brothers unleashed a relentless campaign against Spanish and Italian vessels. They weren't just raiding, they were mastering the art of naval warfare, combining fierce courage with brilliant tactical deception. But it wasn't their military victories that immortalized them. It was an act of profound humanity. Across the sea, in Spain, the Inquisition was mercilessly persecuting, torturing, and expelling hundreds of thousands of Muslims and Jews from Al-Andalus. Hearing the desperate cries for help, Oruç and Khair deployed their entire fleet on a secret, highly dangerous humanitarian mission. Risking total destruction by the massive Spanish navy, they made dozens of daring trips to the coast of Spain, rescuing over 70,000 Andalusian refugees and safely transporting them to North Africa. The rescued families, overwhelmed with gratitude, began calling Oruç Baba Oruç, meaning Father Oruç. To the European ears, this name echoed as a chilling threat, slowly transforming into the legendary title that would haunt Christendom forever. Barbarossa, the Redbeard.
By 1516, the Barbarossa brothers had become too powerful to ignore. The people of Algiers, suffocating under the brutal occupation of a strategic Spanish fortress known as the Peñón, turned to the brothers for deliverance. Oruç and Khair marched on Algiers. Through brilliant coordination, they liberated the city and declared it a free state. Oruç was proclaimed King of Algiers. For the Spanish Empire, this was an unacceptable defiance. The Mediterranean was being snatched from their grasp, and they launched a massive, vengeful counteroffensive to crush the brothers once and for all. The climax came in 1518 in the ancient city of Tlemcen. Trapped and outnumbered 10-1, Oruç and his loyal fighters held off a brutal Spanish siege for months. With no reinforcements coming and supplies completely gone, Oruç made a desperate, final decision to break through the enemy lines under the cover of darkness. He almost made it. Oruç and a small group crossed a river, escaping the Spanish grasp. But as he looked back, he saw his remaining men trapped on the other side, surrounded by a wall of Spanish steel. Oruç had won his freedom. He could have ridden away and lived to fight another day. Instead, he looked at his brothers in arms and chose brotherhood over survival. He turned his horse around and dove straight back into the jaws of death. Oruç fought like a man possessed, cutting down dozens of soldiers until he was pierced by multiple spears. At the age of 44, Baba Oruç fell in the mud, fighting to his very last breath. The Spanish, terrified of his ghost, cut off his head and sent it to Europe as proof that the great Redbeard was finally dead. They thought they had killed the rebellion, but they had only awakened a sleeping giant. The Spanish celebrated the death of Oruç, believing the Mediterranean was theirs again. But they forgot one thing. Oruç had a brother. Khair, now known as Khair ad-Din, took up the mantle of Redbeard. Fueled by grief and unmatched strategic genius, he swore to finish what his brother started. Recognizing that Algiers needed a powerful shield, Khair ad-Din aligned himself with the Ottoman Empire. Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent appointed him Grand Admiral of the entire Ottoman fleet. The merchant's son was now the supreme commander of an empire's navy. The ultimate test came in 1538 at the Battle of Preveza. Pope Paul III assembled a massive Christian coalition, a holy league of over 300 ships and 60,000 men, led by Europe's top admiral, Andrea Doria. Their mission? Wipe Barbarossa off the map. Outnumbered and outgunned, Khair ad-Din didn't retreat. He used the wind and the maneuverability of his galleys to trap the heavy European galleons. In a display of flawless naval tactics, Barbarossa completely shattered the Christian alliance in just a few hours. Andrea Doria fled the battlefield under the cover of darkness. Preveza was a total triumph. With this single victory, Khair ad-Din secured absolute Ottoman supremacy over the Mediterranean for the next 3 centuries. The sea had officially found its true master. In 1546, Khair ad-Din Barbarossa passed away peacefully in Istanbul. For centuries after his death, no Ottoman warship would leave the Bosporus without saluting his mausoleum, paying tribute to the man who built their empire's glory on the water. They began their journey as simple sons of a potter and ended it as legends who reshaped the borders of the world. Empires fell, kings were forgotten, but the name Barbarossa remains carved into history forever. If you want to uncover more dark, untold stories of the ancient world, make sure to subscribe to Epic Past and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Barbarossa secured the seas, but the ultimate clash between empires was just beginning. Click on this video right here to discover the shocking truth behind the Battle of the Three Kings. See you there.